Welcome to Lesson 8 of the Great Skybridge Showdown Junior. Now in this lesson, the children will learn that God will keep His promises. And we'll say it like this: God will keep His promises. Now to begin the lesson, you'll start with the weekly drop-off activity called I Spy. In this activity, you'll tape pictures to bricks and have the children build a wall out of the bricks and then play a game of I Spy with the pictures. Now your opening activity is called Sticker Promises. In this activity, you'll promise at the beginning to give the children stickers if they do everything you ask them to do during the activity. Now during the activity, you'll ask them to do something and promise them something after they do it. So they'll do what you ask them to do, and then you'll fulfill that promise. And after they've done everything you've asked them to do, you'll fulfill the promise you gave them at the beginning by giving them a sticker. Now the main point activity is called God's Promises. And in this activity, you're going to review everything that God did as He promised to take Israel out of Egypt and into the Promised Land. So you'll begin the activity by placing the children inside a circle of chairs and talk about how Israel was trapped in Egypt. You'll then talk about how God was powerful and He got them out of Egypt. You'll move one of the chairs and they'll walk out of Egypt. Then you'll tape two lines on the floor parallel to each other and place a blue piece of butcher paper on each side of the line. Now you'll have children on each side, maybe just one or two, who will be able to pick up the butcher paper while the rest of the children are lined up. Now at one point the children will pick up the butcher paper on each side and the other children will walk through and you'll talk about how God promised to take Israel to the Promised Land and He parted the Red Sea. You'll then have the children talk about how God provided for Israel while they were in the desert. You'll have them feel a cup of rice to represent the manna, some feathers to represent quail, and you'll have them squeeze a rock and see if they can get water out of it and talk about how God got water out of a rock. Then you'll have the children stop at the last station, which is where they'll get a nice cool drink of water to represent the Promised Land. That God fulfilled His promise by pulling Israel through all of these things and taking them to the Promised Land. Now your craft classroom activity is called the Promised Land. And in this activity, you'll contrast the desert with the Promised Land by having the children glue sand on one side and then pieces of tissue paper in blue to represent water and green to represent growing grass on the other side. You'll talk about how God promised to take Israel from the desert to the Promised Land. Your weekly Bible review is called Bible Story Wall of Bricks, and you will review different pictures from the Bible story and ask the children questions representing each picture. Your closing activity is called God's Promises to Me. Now in this activity, you'll take a piece of butcher paper, and as you talk about different things that God's promised us, like a family or clothing, you'll glue each of these at different places around the butcher paper and have the children participate in all the different promises that God's given us. Finally, your pickup activity is called Hop to It. And in this activity, the children will roll a numbered cube and they'll hop forward on a board game and do whatever the space says for them to do as they complete the board game. Now for more information on any of these activities or to see one of them from start to finish, look up the activity under its title on the Classroom Activity Training DVD.